Hello and welcome to another accounting tutorial where in this video I'll be walking you through my top 5 tips to pass Introduction to Bookkeeping. Tip number 1, know the format of the exam inside out. This will give you confidence going into the exam and really help to reduce those nerves. For the majority of students, this will be your first AAT exam, and being nervous is completely normal, so being familiar with the layout will really help. With this in mind, you'll have 1 hour 30 minutes to complete the exam, and within that time you'll have 11 tasks to complete. There are 100 marks on offer, and as with all AAT exams, you need 70% in order to pass. Therefore, for this exam, nice and simple, that'll mean you'll need 70 marks to pass. I'll put how many marks each task is worth on screen now. If you need to pause to either note these down or just need a little longer to look over them, I suggest doing that now. Tip number 2, knowing what the theme is for each task. Again, this links into tip number 1 on knowing the exam back to front. I'll include the theme for each question below, and this should give you an idea of what topic each question on the exam will test you on. Again, if you need to pause, I'd suggest doing that now. Tip number 3, using what's actually given to you in the exam. New with the Q22 syllabus, AAT have introduced a new test platform, Atlas Cloud, and with that comes a new feature, the highlighter tool. This is really useful because it allows you to highlight key information in the question as you would if it was a paper-based exam. I would highly recommend using this because there can be quite a lot of information to work through, and being able to highlight the key parts will easily allow you to draw attention to those areas, especially if you're having to scroll. Which brings me on to another feature to be aware of, that is the reference material on the right hand side of the screen. In the actual exam, it often saves you from having to scroll up and down by having the reference material on the right hand side. All you need to do is click on it and it'll open up the key information on screen to stop you having to constantly go up and down. Thank you AAT for adding this in. Tip number 4, use the resource on the AAT website. Everybody who's registered with AAT as a student will have access to the material on the Lifelong Learning portal. Now this exam, at the time of making this video, you already have access to 8 e-learning modules, 5 key calculations, 3 videos, a real life scenario, and a green light test as a mini test before the mocks, and then you have 2 full mock exams. Just be aware that when you complete the mock exams on the AAT website, I would highly recommend you mark your answers as you go along, as once you've clicked submit, you'll not be able to go back and see what you've got right or wrong. It will just tell you whether you're competent or not yet competent. Tip number 5, don't shy away from your weaknesses or things you don't like. Oh, and aren't we all guilty of this? Not just during learning, but just in life in general. And it's natural to want to focus on what you're good at, and don't get me wrong, it's important to still revisit those areas to make sure you don't lose the ability to answer those questions. However, with the Q22 syllabus, there is less repetition than ever between the levels, which doesn't mean you aren't going to need to know how to do something later down the line. It's actually the exact opposite, where you'll be expected to know everything you've learned in previous exams. It just won't be covered again within the learning material. So back to my original point, focus on those areas you're weaker at to bring them up to a good standard, because it will really pay off, not just for this exam, but for later down the line. If there's areas that you've worked really hard and you're still not 100%, speak to your tutor if you have one, or consider even having an hour's one-to-one private tutoring, which will cost, but will definitely be cheaper than paying to resit the exam. And that covers my top 5 tips to pass Introduction to Bookkeeping. Hope you've enjoyed the video and found it useful. And if you have, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more AAT content. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.